Two classic franchises have dropped two new trailers. Morris Day may not be saying what time is it anymore, and the Batman has brought vengeance to theaters everywhere. All this, plus a lot of special guests tonight on this episode of This Fantastic Week. I'm your host, the Geek Boy. Joining me tonight are Mr. Narwhal, commander of Ice Station 918, the magnificent Goldar, the gamer with the golden throat, and performing his assigned production duties flawlessly, we hope, the Reverend IT Geek. Now, as you can see, we are loaded up with special guests tonight. Joining me in the fan cave tonight are Matt and Brunch and Bullets, as well as the Viking Slayer. And we also have piping in on Secure Comm from the Bartlesville Batcave, the Batman of Oklahoma. Welcome to him, sir. Oh, there he is. There he is. And we have Mr. Ronald Brown piping in as well. Ronnie, I think you're still muted, but I can see you. Everybody, welcome tonight. Welcome, everybody.
Hey, it's good to be here.
Yeah. Right on.
Justice. Yeah. We got justice and vengeance on the show tonight. I want to thank everyone who's chosen to burn a little bit of their screen time with us tonight. I know that the B5 babe is here, and we also have Jason Barker in the house tonight. I want to thank them and everyone else who might be tuning in, choosing to burn a little bit of their screen time with us. We ask that if you do enjoy the show and you like what you see, please leave a like and share this video. And if you're not already following us on Facebook, please consider doing so. Also, if you are so inclined, please jump over to our YouTube page and like and subscribe to that as well. We're eventually, we don't know when, going to be moving our primary focus over there in the coming months, given some news that Goldar family may be moving sooner rather than later, but we'll let everybody know, kind of when all that happens, we can catch our live content. But with that being said, I'm going to check in with our illustrious panel with Mr. Goldar. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You going to let everybody know what block of programming you're handling for us right now?
Yeah, so I do Fanboys Nightcrawlers. It premieres every late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. Lately, it's been more Sunday morning because I've had some technical issues going on.
I have noticed that.
Yeah, there's been some technical issues going on with the Adobe Premiere. Right now, none of my hotkeys work, so it's taking a little bit longer to edit a video.
Oh, geez.
So I'm playing Days Gone. It's a PlayStation 4 exclusive game about a post-apocalyptic world that's been taken over by creatures called freakers that act a lot like zombies, essentially. So basically, Grand Theft Auto style, you're driving across the landscape on your motorcycle and completing certain tasks by killing some of these freakers or capturing other people that are unsavory characters.
I see. And now, were we at part 9, I think?
No, we just did part 6, I believe it is.
Okay.
So our companion Boozer, who got injured in the first episode, his burn infection has gotten worse. So we've had to drive across the landscape to a brand new camp and dropped him off there so that he can get some special medical attention. So that was the most recent thing that's happened. And then also we rescued someone from a group of characters called the Rippers, which are basically a religious zealot cult that has risen in the landscape. That they're not monsters, but they're just nutcases. Basically, they're a lot like Victor Zsasz, if you will, from Batman.
Okay.
They scar themselves, cut themselves up, and they mumble just the strangest phrases and things like that if you sit and listen to them during the game. So yeah, it's interesting.
Now, is this the one, if I remember right, a couple of weeks ago when we were on, which I think it's been a couple of weeks since we've been on, this is the one you were actually recommending doing all the side quests and stuff for, right?
Yeah, you're definitely gonna have to do a lot of side quests to be able to upgrade your motorcycle and unlock the ability to purchase heavier weapons to help out on your missions. That is for sure.
Now, are you still playing Alien Fireteam game as well in between, or have you been dedicating your time just to this one game?
Just been dedicating to Days Gone for right now, but I do want to get back into playing some Fireteam because there's a few campaigns that I haven't gotten to yet. So we might do that as like a palate cleanser or just an extra episode during the week.
So what's the name of that program that you're running again for us?
Yes, it's Fanboys Nightcrawlers.
All right, appreciate it. Yeah. And but guys, as you all know, That's y'all. Listen to that. Can't tell you're in the 918. Mr. Narwhal is also running some programming for us. By the way, what's the temperature up there at iStation 918?
Temperature currently at iStation 918 is a balmy 21 degrees, clear skies, on our way to a high of 11 tomorrow.
Dude, it's Indian summer up there for you.
It is. It totally is.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I've told you before, the borders are open, right?
I understand, yeah, but there's certain things that we have up here that you just can't get down there. Things like Prince and Juicy Lucy's and really bad movies.
Tell us about that.
Hey, well, I do a show here called Fanurism Flicks. It features some of the best of the worst in cinema over the past 50 or 60 years. And if you're a fan of mystery science theater, like I obviously am,
yes,
there's 4 words that I can say that you'll know exactly what film we're showing this week, and that is watch out for snakes. It is March, which means it is Arch Hall Jr. month here at Fanurism Flicks, and we're showing the film that he is best known for, Ega. Made in 1962, starring Arch Hall Jr., directed by Arch Hall Sr., and in one of his earliest screen appearances, Richard Keel as the eponymous Ega himself. Let's take a look at the trailer for this.
Let's run that trailer.
From ancient Genesis to the modern screen, is the name written in blood, Ega!
If I could just call you on the phone.
Thrill to the newest recording star, Arch Hall Jr.
The old rock house on the Brownsville Road. Crazy things happen according to the code. You turn to the left at the sun.
See ravishing Marilyn Manning in a thrilling, chilling story. The last of the prehistoric giants sees his first girl. Noah. Curious newsmen search deep in giant country for the last of the ancient cavemen. See a tough giant tamed by the soft hands of his captive woman. See him sacrifice his ageless beard for her love. Then lose her to a boy in a dune buggy, escaping a burning desert. Ega's primitive passion was love or kill. Hear Ega talk, the ancient language of love, used at the beginning of time. See Ega!
And that is Ega, or more like, oh God.
Yes.
I can see why he needed braces. Holy hell.
Holy
hell,
Arch
Batman,
Hall-
did you catch that?
Arch Hall Jr. is one of those guys that his dad decided that he was going to make movies, and he decided that he was going to put his son in all of his movies, and it worked out about as well as you might expect. But he's given us some schlock classics in the meantime, and Ega is definitely the one that he's most known for. But it's not my favorite, which is the movie that we're showing next week in Arch Hall Junior month. So,
and when does that drop, or is it already dropped on the?
That is currently running right now on our YouTube page. A new movie drops next week.
Awesome. All right, so
are we going to go over the other bit of programming you do, or what's the other one that you do?
Yeah,
there,
it's still
Mr.
running,
Narwhal?
isn't it?
I always want to plug it if we can.
That's
so,
right.
how do you pronounce it? Narwhalarama?
Narwhalarama, yeah. Basically, what it is it's a collection of short films, definitely not for the kiddies, but it's a collection of short animated films that we are streaming right now on our YouTube page. Go and check it out. It's a fun time.
Awesome.
Awesome. All right, and our last little bit of plugging before we actually get to the stories here tonight. We have something that the Reverend and I do, and sometimes we do it with a room full of people, and we're going to do that more. I'm going to try to keep the panels changed up and bring different people off and on as I think the episodes will appeal to their sensibilities. But we have another episode. Reverend, are you ready? What do we got coming up tomorrow night?
Sci-Fi Friday.
Yeah, that's right. It was worth tuning in just for that, wasn't it, folks? So that's right. Sci-Fi Friday returns again. Last week was quite a doozy of an episode. We had a live panel here for reactions and discussions. It was a big epic episode of Babylon 5. For those that don't know, Sci-Fi Friday, we are revisiting and walking back through the classic 90s science fiction series Babylon 5 a week at a time. And we are racing toward the end of season 2, where nearly every episode is a wham gut punch. And like I say, we're going to try to do some more of these live panels and just everybody get a live reaction to these things. This week will not be one of those weeks, however. This week we have kind of I guess what I would call kind of a meat and potatoes episode of Babylon 5. We find that Captain Sheridan may be possessed by an alien life form, while Londo begins to eat some of the bitter fruit he's been sowing for the past year. This is season 2, episode 17, called Knives. It is it's the last episode of the series not written by J. Michael Straczynski until I believe the middle of season 5. So from this point on, he would write the rest of season 2, all of season 3, all of season 4. I believe he holds the Guinness Book of World Records for the most hours of TV ever written by one person for a single show. As always, we'll be in the chat providing commentary and fun facts. So we hope to see all of our B5 fans there. So with that, Reverend, you got something else? Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to catch up. Looks like we got Mary Keaton. She's watching
Oh,
tonight.
hey, Mary.
We actually have Lori Alvarado's in the queue. Appreciate she's there in there with us. And that's like, listen, we got a few comments from Sprout. He said, "Damn, dude, it's March." Who said it was 24 and snowing up here?
Sprout said that, yeah.
Gotcha. All right. And wow, the Viking Slayer's watching. Can you believe it?
Can you believe it?
Can you believe it? He's here. Yeah.
Can you believe it?
So caught up on the board, but that's about it.
Okay. So first of all, before we start into the content, I want to welcome our special guests. First of all, a man who requires no introduction. His suit and his symbol speak for him no matter where he goes. He is broadcasting from Bartlesville's own Batcave. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Flaherty, the Batman of Oklahoma. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
he is a cosplay beast with this stuff. He's got how many suits do you have, actually?
Bat suits or costumes in
Actually,
general?
I'm sorry, how many bat suits do you have? Then we'll go over the costumes.
More than I need. But I've got this suit, obviously, a comic style kind of bat suit, and then I kind of have a bat Fleck or Ben Affleck bat suit.
Really?
Kind of in the works, but yeah. So kind of 3 at the moment. Then I kind of have a Red Hood and Nightwing going on, but
that's cool.
Probably going to give that to a friend, something like that. But
now I've seen some pictures on your page of a Ninja Turtle outfit. Is that you?
Yep, that's totally me. I have a Leonardo costume made by the Cave Creature Workshop in Colombia. Took a bit of a gamble on the suit, and it turned out amazing. Wasn't sure if Colombia was the best choice, but it was a third the price of like anywhere else, and it's really great.
Oh wow! What else you got?
Now, what else? Sorry. Well, I'm sorry. I was going to say what all came with that suit? Is it just the suit itself? Did you get like
with that
accoutrement?
The Leonardo?
Yes.
Yes.
There was no drugs in the suit.
Oh.
So they did not come with that. Quit asking. I've actually been asked that before. But also, no, it actually came with the mask, pretty much everything but weapons. Like, the only thing it didn't have was the weapons, and I found those like on Amazon. So.
Right.
Wow. And are you doing anything right now? I know you're really affiliated with T-Pop, Tulsa Pop. expo,
Yeah, I
and
do
things like that?
K-pop. What I probably do the most work with, aside from when I do like gigs, right, like birthday parties and stuff, but probably what I do the most work with is Real Okie Superheroes. They're a charity cosplay organization where we just do what we can to help someone have a better day. For the most part, it's kind of visiting sick kids. But we also have started doing nursing home visits, just
Nice.
something
Oh,
we've
wow.
never thought of before. But we have an Elvis in the group now too, and like the nursing homes just eat them up.
Oh, that's great.
Man, now I feel like I need to break out my Captain America costume and stuff. So,
Do it.
should. I got the shield. I got the shield and a hammer. So,
See,
all right,
I
where are we
already-
going next?
Well, next we're going to our illustrious our last 918 transplant that's on the panel tonight, Mr. Ronald Brown. It's good to see you, sir. Where are you broadcasting from tonight?
So I am in my car, right outside of the athletic center here. I got my daughter up here at volleyball practice tonight here in Waco. So I will be able to participate here hopefully for about another 45 minutes, maybe 40 minutes now at this point. And then I got to pop smoke and drive back down to Temple, and then I might be able to come back on at that point. But
Okay.
yeah, so Central Texas.
I understand. Well, for the first time ever, and I said this kind of before we went on, we are not burying the lead tonight. We didn't know how long we had you and the Batman for, so we're actually going to open with our Batman review. Once we do a couple of off the tops here, we have two, well, they're not recent, but they were from the last time we were on. We have two people that we have to acknowledge in our rest in peace segment. I'm not going to belabor it. Yeah, Lisa said you're the 918 mobile unit. That's correct. Since the last time we were on, we lost the original Hot Lips Houlihan, Sally Kellerman, passed away. She was played Hot Lips in the MASH film, not on the TV series. She did a lot of voiceover work. She was in Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield, but most sci-fi fans know her as Dr. Elizabeth Daner from the pilot Where No Man Has Gone Before, which was the one that actually sold Star Trek as a series. She was Gary Mitchell Squeeze, who eventually ended up with godlike powers, much like Mr. Mitchell. She passed away, I believe it was of natural causes, at her home. And the second one, again, our condolences go out to her and her family. The second one is another blow to sci-fi fans everywhere. Alan Ladd Jr. passed away within the last week. Alan, for those who don't know, Alan Ladd Jr. used to be the head of 20th Century Fox. He was very prolific. He was a bit of a visionary, and he was the man who greenlit Star Wars. So we all owe Alan Ladd Jr. a huge debt. And by his own admission, and George Lucas has said this, he did not understand a thing of what he had greenlit. He had seen American Graffiti. He'd seen an early cut of American Graffiti, and he understood that George Lucas was talented. And so he read the treatment, and he watched American Graffiti. And by the way, if anyone's who ever read some of those early drafts of Star Wars, hell, I wouldn't know what the hell he was talking about. But he told George Lucas flat out, he said, I don't understand a thing of this, but you're talented, and I'm gambling on you. I'm not gambling on the movie. And as it turned out, both of them worked out really, really well. Yeah, Batman. Okay, that is the most terrifying thing ever, is Batman with a lightsaber. Dude, if Batman drops through the roof and lights up a lightsaber, like evil everywhere is just going to run, So we will salute. Yeah. And we will salute Mr. Ladd Jr. He also, in addition to Star Wars was such a big hit, the studio said, we need to follow up with something science fiction, something real big. He had another script on his desk called Alien, and he said, let's do this. And it was going to be a little $2 or $3 million movie, and Ridley Scott brought him his storyboards, and overnight, Alan Ladd said, this is a $10 million film. This is let's do this, and so, again, he was responsible for so many films that we cherish. He eventually left 20th Century Fox over a bitter dispute about the budget for Empire Strikes Back, and opened his own company, the Ladd Company, and went on to make more movies there. So normally we do a roundtable, but again, I don't think this, they've passed. Both these guys have been gone, or both these folks have been gone longer than a week. So let's get in to our main topic tonight, which is unusual for us. This is the Fanboys 918 review. Spoiler, well, let's try to keep it as spoiler-free as we can. Spoiler-free review of The Batman. And I'm gonna, since we have Ronnie for a limited time, and we're gonna always yield to our special guests at first. Ronnie, what was just your quick overview, your overview of the film? Then I'm gonna move on to the Batman, get his
overview, as in kind of a synopsis of what happened, or how
or
I
no,
felt
just
about it?
how you felt about it. Just your overview. Of
Okay, so I really didn't know what to think. When they announced the whole project and whatnot, I recall me kind of wincing a little bit when I heard that what's Pattinson. Yeah. When I heard that Pattinson was when I heard that he was going to do it, I was kind of like, I don't know. But when I think I was kind of apprehensive until I saw the first the first full trailer, and the chase scene with the Batmobile, and the Penguin, the I got you scene, that sold it for me. I was like, okay, if the rest of the movie is like that, then I'm probably going to appreciate it at least a little bit. So when I went in and saw the movie, I got to tell you, from the opening sequence, the way they opened the whole thing up with the peeping into the windows and whatnot through the binoculars, and then of course reveal of the serial killer. I mean, from start to finish, I'll put it like this. I'm just gonna, long story short is, I walked away from this film thinking this is probably the best rendition, the best best Batman movie I've ever seen made, in my opinion. I think it was the most comic accurate. I think it was the darkest. I think it captured the detective sensibilities from which Batman was born out of. But I thought it was the most dangerous, the most heart pounding, the most emotionally wrenching rendition that I've seen put on film. And I will tell you, I think that the actors were out of sight. Big shout out to Jeffrey Wright as Gordon. And everybody. I really don't have a bad thing to say for the most part of the whole movie. That's from casting, from directing, almost every objective layer or objective angle that I could take at this. I mean, it was I got good criticism, I guess. I got good things to say about it. Okay. But again, that's just me. I felt like it was, it immediately jumped to my top of the list of the best films that I've ever seen as far as a Batman is concerned. But I know I might be a minority in that. It's just the way, psychologically, or I guess emotionally, I felt about this.
Now, how many times have you seen it?
2.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I've seen it. The second time I went to see, I was so blown away after the first time. And, I just kind of wanted to confirm right up front while it was still sort of, I had to give it a few days of kind of breathing room, kind of talk to some coworkers about it and whatnot. And just kind of get a little less breathless about it, and then go in and see it again. And it just confirmed. I actually the first time I was just so blown away and emotionally shocked by what I was watching, that the second time I was able to kind of sit back and look at it objectively, watch the framing, the cinematography, the color palettes, the acting cues. It was masterwork, absolute masterwork, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, we know how you. So you're saying this movie was a 10 out of 10 for you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Batman, or Steven, kind of give your overview, because I know you.
It's Batman. Batman.
Well, so I'm gonna fib. I'm not gonna fib. I'm gonna let some stuff out of the bag. He and I messaged a little bit when we were gonna try to do this last week, when the internet disappeared on me. And you said you actually had to have a day to process it. Is that right?
A little bit. I didn't necessarily love it at first. I'm not sure I love it still, but it's really good. It was really good. My biggest complaint would be the pacing of the movie. Felt a little slow here or there. but overall, like everything else made up for that. From a cosplayer point of view, my personal preference point of view, I did not love his suit. Not just because it wasn't like any other suit, it's just I personally don't like the shape of the cowl and all that, but that's just me. Also, I know I could never pull that one off, so personally, just don't like the suit. But I did think it was pretty great, though. I like that the emblem, without spoiling too much, but the emblem actually was functional, which was something I hadn't seen before, and it was kind of a nice little twist. But
Well, actually, it
yeah.
was in one of the other movies. If you remember, it was in the Clooney.
We don't talk about that.
Wait,
Forgot.
we can talk about it.
That.
We don't talk about Clooney.
Exactly. Yeah.
You got to
Okay,
be
on
honest.
that though, I did think Clooney was a good Bruce Wayne, but other than that, none of that movie worked for me. Anyway, that's on that one. But but no, on this one, were we talking about Spirit 2, right? Is that what we were talking about? No, really part, and also my only other problem with this was probably more just my experience in the theater itself. I don't want to talk about anything bad about my local theater, but it's hurting a bit. They can't. I don't think they have enough money to fix some stuff, so the theater's just a little janky. And a guy in an aisle from me fell asleep during it, but before that, he had lit up a cigarette and smoked for a little bit. So I was a little distracted during my viewing of it. So I think I should be going to the IMAX this weekend, and I think that'll probably fix everything and it'll be perfect experience.
Good deal. Good deal. So was there anything, anything like you thought how'd you think about, let's ask this. How'd you think how Pattinson did in the role?
I think it was pretty good. Which I think one of those, as I processed it, was a lot better. At first, I thought he was the same character, Bruce Wayne or Batman. He was the same character the entire time. And I didn't like that at first, but the more I thought about it, this is more of a recluse Bruce Wayne. No one really knows who this guy is, so it kind of makes sense that he's the same regardless. I felt the same kind of about his Bat voice, because his Bat voice was pretty much just in his normal voice, which is fine, which works because, again, being a recluse Bruce Wayne, no one really know his voice, so that worked for me.
Right.
Eventually.
Okay. All right. I'm going to switch it over here to I think we're going to get a few dissenting opinions here. Madam Brunch and Bullets, what was your opinion of the film? Just overall,
So I'm not a big Batman fan. I think he falls really low for me. I don't
really.
I'm
She's
not
fired.
about.
She's fired, girl.
She's fired. She's not allowed. But no, I'm not a big Batman fan. So I don't have a lot, but I actually enjoyed this movie.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if I enjoyed it because I like Robert Pattinson, just because of my era, like what he was. I mean, he's Cedric Diggory. He was
Sparkly vampire.
He was a sparkly vampire, but
vampires really do turn into bats.
There you go.
I will say.
Ooh, hang on.
I will say that he was a better vampire in this movie than he was in Twilight. But no, I enjoyed the movie, and I think that he gets, and mine is more like towards like Rob's acting.
Mm-hmm.
He gets a lot of bad raps just because of the movies he chooses and stuff like that. But you have to remember, this is a very British cast. Like he is very British, like, and you can't really tell that with his accent, because sometimes you can tell, you're like, oh yeah, it's a British guy playing an American, but no, like his accent was pretty good, and like I think that gets overlooked a lot of the time, and his acting gets overlooked a lot of the time.
Is Paul Dano British?
So
the guy who played the Riddler? I don't know. Because I think every member do what?
Might as well be.
Yeah.
Well, and Zoe Kravitz, she's not quite British, but she's more famous over there than she is over here. So I think that played a part into it. And I liked her acting as well. I thought her character was really good. So from mine, it was the way it was shot and the acting that I really enjoyed. But it's 3 hours, and I just don't have the attention span for that. So
if it had been a 3-hour Harry Potter movie, you would have.
No, because I have to take a break.
Okay.
So
that's why we watch them at home.
Yeah. I need a break because
Well,
hey, you made it through Endgame.
Barely.
Weren't
You just
drunk
knew where
the
the
first
people-
I
time?
was, yeah.
Oh, she was shit faced.
I was shit.
She was
So
shit faced because I was sitting
yeah.
next to the two shit faced. Yeah.
I'm not the only one that was, but I
No,
was.
you were
pretty
not.
bad.
I believe when not to jump movies here, but when Iron Man snapped his fingers and said the line, I believe you burst into tears.
I did.
and fell out
It
of your
was
chair.
crazy.
Yeah.
Also, that was a lot of alcohol.
That
So
was, it was the Warren. It's the Warren.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that was another thing. I wasn't like the biggest fan of the theater, and I think it's because I was too close to the door. So every time like somebody would leave or go, it was right there.
Well, I was going to say, I don't think we had as bad experiences as the Batman did. when
No,
we saw
nobody
it.
smoked in that.
But
Yeah.
it was
Kind of hard to top that one.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely.
But I remember the only other time I'd been to that theater was to see New Mutants.
Yeah.
And I was prepared to be underwhelmed, and I was. So I would like to see. I kind of like, if I see it again, it's going to be in a premium format, like IMAX, or at least something that we know is digital, and because I just and to be fair, the movie's color palette looked a little washed out. And I think that and I know it's a muted palette, but I think that was the projector, because even the Doctor Strange trailer looked a little off. Like when they were running, like, oh man, it looks a lot better than this on my TV at home,
Yeah.
So
got a couple things in the chat, just really catch up. So the Queen has joined us tonight. Courtney is in the chat.
Oh, hey, Courtney.
The Queen came in. I feel like our viewing was darker on screen than it should have been. Need a second viewing. Then she came back with "Don't hate on the drunk girls." That's from Endgame. And her last comment: the long-haired hippie kid needed to pick up his feet. So our server definitely was a foot scraper. He just drug his feet around like Quasimodo and everything. So anyway, caught up on the chats there, right there. So go.
And he's had hair on his head as long as my daughter's been alive.
Well, and he drug his feet, and I'm like, somehow I can hear his feet when I shouldn't be able to hear his feet because we're in a movie. So like that, I don't know.
But this is all like, this is
stuff
everything, not the movie.
That's stuff you can't control, but
Right. But it does play an effect.
But it does play an effect, whether you enjoy the movie or not. It's
As
just
Batman
happening.
said, it plays an effect. Yeah.
What were you about to say, Ronnie?
Hey, no. So I was just going to say, it sounds to me like there've been a lot of you guys, for the most part, have been in, seen it in, mediocre or poor theaters, I guess. And part of the reason why I liked it so much, it had to do with the actual experience in the theater, because of especially like when the Batmobile scene,
Roars to life.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I saw it in a premium theater, and the sound editing and all that sort of stuff. The score, by the way, was another. Like I said, when I went to see it the second time, there's another thing that I paid attention to, because a lot of people had started talking about the music and whatnot. And I was so blown away the first time that I didn't really get to take in a lot of that. But the second time I saw it, that's one of the things I definitely paid attention to, was, not just the Kurt Cobain Nirvana part, but the rest of the actual theatrical score was brilliant, was beautiful, to me. So it's a shame that you guys didn't see it in a more premium theater. I think, and I definitely advise that you go and check it out, at a good theater.
Well, and
just to get the full effect.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, and I know that. Well, I tell you what, I'm gonna let the Viking Slayer go, because I know he's probably gonna be our big dissenting opinion. I'm sorry, what you got?
Nope, go ahead.
Are we gonna say something, Reverend?
Oh, I was just gonna say, just wanted to pick it up, and see and get on to the next one, because I know we have limited time with Ronnie and stuff. So I just want to make sure everybody has a chance to talk to it. So go ahead, Viking Slayer, knock it out.
Okay, so I did not like the movie, just flat out.
Okay, I have to give some reasons.
And I thought it was shot too, I thought the whole movie was just too dark. I liked the fact that it was a darker version of the movie, like the tone of the movie was darker, but I just felt like everything was shot too dark. And why did he have to have the black eyeliner on? I didn't understand
why.
Wow. He's gonna reveal his identity.
That's why.
I almost would have preferred that.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
So I actually have to say that I really liked the black eyeliner because that's what all of the other actors wore in the movie, and you would see them take off their cowl and then no liner, and for me that completely would take me out of it, and I especially like the fact that when you saw him out of the mask and he still had the eyeliner on, it almost said to me that even if he's taken the mask off, he's still Batman. He hasn't put on the whole, Bruce Wayne mask as it was.
So if I could interject there. So one thing that reminds me about is when I read the comic books is that, his cowl was always like was always full. There was no liner or everything. It was kind of like the Spider-Man where it was just the eyes. There was no marking everything. And the way I saw it is like, there was really no way for them to do that, to create that look without having some opening eyes. Because I think a lot of the staring down, staring down his opponents is very powerful when he's trying to strike fear into him. So I saw it as a way to complete the cowl look that you got from the comic books. And so that was my interpretation. You're right. I didn't like it when you took the cowl off, and you obviously know there was the makeup underneath there to create the black filling, and they would take it off and be gone. But I did like this in the movie where you take the cowl off and he still has it kind of streaking down. And I like the fact that they streak it down, that he's sweating because he's just been in a fight, and it's not water resistant or anything like that. So
much more realistic. Yeah.
Yes. But anyway, go ahead, Viking Slayer. Please continue on.
Does Batman need to be that realistic?
That's true.
I mean, there's an element of fantasy to Batman.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But anyways, and the other thing is, like other people have touched on, I think it was the movie, the theater experience. It was awful. For me, the theater experience was awful. I had one of the waitresses just like ran full force directly into my legs. I'm like,
about that. Yeah.
How do you not see that? Like, it was almost like you just don't care. You don't care if people are having a good time or not.
Yeah, that didn't help.
And then for me, it set me in a bad tone. And then for me, it just was not good.
Well, I think one of the things we want to stress is one of the reasons we ended up at that theater was we couldn't all find seats together at the Warren. We had a limited window where we could all go see it. Mm-hmm. And I think there was a lot of us in the back of our mind, we were unsure about this movie. So it's like, all right, let's just.
Do we want to spend the money to go to somewhere to watch it?
At the Warren, for two people, you're looking at $100 tab easily. By the time it's like, do I really want to do that on a movie? Oh yeah. On a Batman film that I'm not sure about. So,
Ronnie, did you go by yourself, or did you, or did you have the family? Yeah, did you take family with you?
No, definitely no. My wife had hell no. Yeah, no. My wife was not. I know. I just get a hall pass and say, hey, babe, you mind if I go check out them? And she's like, do your thing, because we're not on the same with film. But no, I went by myself. Both times. So the first time. We have pretty nice theaters out here. The first time it was pretty packed, but the theaters are built now these days where you don't really have a bad experience if it's a premium theater, even if it is packed. And then the second time, same theater, but it wasn't nearly as packed. It was actually on a Wednesday. It's like I paid like $5. It's like discount night at this theater, so it was pretty good. It was the 9:00 show, so it's long. It's long. The second time, I had a beer there and I was, struggling a little bit, the second time, but I powered through it just because it was kind of like a labor of love to kind of make sure that I paid attention to all the aspects. But yeah, it was by myself.
Okay. All right.
So Viking Slayer, what else did you have comment wise on it?
I will say this. I did think that Pattinson did a phenomenal job for what, for what I felt like he was given. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't hate on an actor for doing what they give you.
Right.
And so I thought he did a phenomenal job. The only other real, and it's only a complaint because I don't know which came first, the the movie, the script for the movie, or the Arkham Knight video game, because
Oh, that's right. That's
the
right.
ending in the diner is directly from the video game.
I want to say Arkham Knight was actually out before this movie was probably even written. Tarek, do you have any? Well, I mean, we'll kind of lead into you. I mean, being a video game person, did you ever play Arkham Knight, and do you remember that? And
Arkham Knight was the fourth one, right?
yes,
Then I believe that game was finished
Yep.
before this movie came out. I think it came out in like 2014,
I
maybe.
want to say, yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I just got my Xbox and Arkham Knight a few years ago to play that, because I've been a big fan of the Arkham series for Batman. So I know I've been playing this before they even announced this movie. So yeah, so it definitely came out before then. So if I could say before we go over to Goldar, I mean, you have any other closing thoughts?
No, I think that's it.
Did you like, did anybody else in the cast stand out for you besides Pat?
Definitely Penguin,
Yeah.
just for the ability that he was unrecognizable,
Yeah.
of who he actually is.
Exactly.
You know, and that was pretty much, besides Pattinson, that would be the number one that stood out for me as
Okay. B5 wants to know where we should rank Patterson as he compares to, say, Bale or Keaton. I don't know that we have a consensus on that yet.
No, I say let's finish your comments, and then we can do a ranking of the Batmans for everybody here. So I would say let's go to Goldar and get his, and then we'll go from there. So Goldar, give us your
Yeah, so my I'm gonna echo some of what everyone else has said. The theater that we went to, I think the screen brightness was a little bit too low, and I noticed that when we watched that trailer for that Sandra Bullock movie, where the areas that were white were kind of gray, and I was like, oh, that's not going to be good. That means we're going to be rolling into a film that could be like mostly at night and it's dark. So it was kind of hard for me to catch some of the details during this film just for that particular reason. But outside of that, I think the film was pretty fantastic. I enjoyed the fact that they played up Batman's detective skills. It blew my mind that for the last several iterations of Batman, that we didn't have a Batman that was really a detective. He just showed up and just started punching red shirt villains every scene. Or he would pull out a new gadget and things like that. That was the other thing that was interesting about this film, is there weren't a ton of new gadgets that Batman had. And that was always a thing that they did in the previous ones, but he did have something really cool in this one. That I think would be really interesting technology to have in the future. But there was really only that one thing that just kind of stood out. Rob Pattinson's performance as Batman, I knew going in he was going to be fantastic. I've seen some of his films post Twilight, and he's done a phenomenal job in those. I know that he was really dying to play this role. And anytime you have an actor that really, really wants to play a character, they usually will do whatever it takes to put out a good performance for it. So I knew going in he was going to be awesome, and he was. I liked that he was a reclusive Batman versus a Bruce Wayne that had almost like a what's the word? Basically, he almost seemed like all the other iterations of Bruce Wayne seemed almost kind of unrealistic. Like he seemed like too out there, too playboyish, and then at night he was very vengeful and beat people up and stuff like that. And I think that for somebody's personality like that, there's got to be some gray area where things kind of blend together. And I think this is probably a truer interpretation of what a realistic Batman would be like. Somebody that's just kind of torn up both in their role as Batman and also their civilian role. So I think that was great. Zoe Kravitz did a fantastic job as Catwoman. I really enjoyed her performance and what she brought to the table. Paul Dano, everything I've ever seen Paul Dano in, he's phenomenal. So when they said he was going to be the Riddler, I was super hyped for this. He was a creepy Riddler. It very much reminded me of Jigsaw in some aspects.
Yeah.
I've heard some trivia that he kind of modeled his Riddler after Michael Myers, but I haven't gotten to like really dig deep into that to find out what aspects he brought from that
That's
in there.
interesting.
Yeah, because Michael Myers doesn't talk; he just shows up.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that.
I'm
the
not
way he
seeing
moves.
Michael Myers at
Apparently
all.
Austin
No.
Powers.
Yeah, that's what was kind of interesting. So I'm gonna have to go back and read more about that. But he did an awesome job. I really liked Colin Farrell's Penguin. He was amazing as the character as well. I just what they did with this film is incredible. I think this is the best Batman film that I've seen in a long time.
High praise from Goldar.
Absolutely.
Anyone else have any comments to Goldar's statements before we roll on to Mr. Narwhal? Or
No, I don't.
I think
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the point about Pattinson and his ability to play the Batman. So one point that I didn't make earlier was that as far as Pattinson is concerned, he was the best part of what was the recent Nolan flick with
Tenet.
Denzel's son.
Yes.
Yeah, Tenet. So I thought he was the best part of Tenet.
He was.
I thought that Denzel's son was kind of a bust. I had high hopes for him, but he was awesome. Pattinson. It shocked me. So, but I was still apprehensive of him playing this part. But I think I agree that I think he crushed it. But that's all I'll say about that.
cool. Anything else before we go to Narwhal?
Oh, I think it was, he just did an awesome job. Everybody was standout performances. So I'm looking forward to the next one if they make another one.
They got to. So, Mr. Narwhal, let's roll right into you. What was your thoughts on it?
So, I'm like many of the other panelists. I'm not the biggest DC fan. I've typically always been more of a Marvel guy, but I have to say that this is probably this is absolutely the best Batman movie I've seen, and I'm willing to bet you that this is probably going to be the best superhero movie that we're going to have all year. I think it was that good.
Wow.
Okay.
One of the things that I really liked about this film, and it's something that Marvel does really well with their films, is that for literally the first 3/4 of the film, it's just a straight up detective story. You could actually take Batman out of the story and insert a Sam Spade, hard-bitten private eye character, and it would change very little about the story. And that is what I think really works for this, is that it's not dependent on the trappings of Batman to make it a good movie. It's just a straight up good movie that's made even better by the fact that you have this Batman character. One of the other things that I really like is that they actually let Batman be the weirdest, scariest guy in the movie. For so many of these of the Batman films, Batman is always a secondary character to whoever the villain is, be it Joker, be it Bane, be it Scarecrow, whoever it is. The big lore has always been, oh look, it's Jack Nicholson's Jokers, it's Heath Ledger. But in this case, Batman really is the star of the film, and I really appreciate that about this movie, that it actually showcases, in my opinion, what Batman is better than a lot of the other films that we've seen. Now, I saw this in a really good theater, in a premium experience, and I got to say, the colors were great. It is a very dark movie. I mean, the majority of this film takes place at night, and it also takes place in the rain.
That makes Blade Runner look like a freaking Norman Rockwell painting, dude.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
much. But it's also interesting too that the cinematographer for this film, I've got to give him some credit. His name is Greg Fraser. He did films like Dune. He did The Mandalorian. He did Rogue One. So he's done a lot of really, really great shots, and I think that he's done a really interesting job with this one here. The only thing after seeing the film that sort of made me go, wait a minute, was the score. And not to say that I didn't really like the score. I did. I walked out of the movie and I'm just sort of humming the score to myself, and it's like especially sort of like the little Batman theme. It's like, man, this is a really catchy little thing.
Batman, I'm the Batman.
well, and then I realized why it's so catchy, because if you add the second part on that, I'm the Batman, da 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 da, Darth Vader.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, it works. It worked for John Williams. I'm not going to ding Michael Giacchino for homaging that. At least he took the best part of it, So,
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed it. I would be surprised if we see anything this year that, and that's even knowing that we have Doctor Strange 2 coming up. But I think that it's going to be really hard to beat this film.
Okay. Wow. I think this is only the second movie post the world health situation that we're in. Got to pick my words carefully. That has opened to 100 million over the weekend. I think Spider-Man was the only other one besides this. I don't think anything else has gotten close to that. So, Mr. Narwhal, anybody else have any other comments before I drop in my 58 cents? Okay. Well, I've heard everything everyone said, and I agree with I agree with something that everyone has said around the board. For me, overall, I did not have a lot of expectations about this film, mainly because of what we do. I know what it had kind of an ugly pre-production. This was supposed to be Ben Affleck's movie, not this script, but he was supposed to star in this movie, and that kind of got yanked away from him. And I had kind of a chip on my shoulder about it, because I felt like as problematic as a lot of the DC films have been, I thought his Batman was one of the things they actually got right. So I was really looking forward to seeing him. When he departed, and they brought in Matt Reeves, who, by the way, I love his Planet of the Apes movies that he's done. I think he's done a really good job. But he's also a J.J. Abrams alumni, so I was kind of nervous about that. Then when they announced Robert Pattinson, I was nervous about that. That was pretty much the only thing I was nervous about. I mean, like, I could care less about who they cast as Catwoman or whatever. As long as I figure these people do a great job. I love Jeffrey Wright, so that wasn't a hard sell for me. But I would say the first 2/3 of this film was a 10 out of 10 for me. I mean, much like what Mr. Narwhal said. I know that I'm going to take something that Ronnie messaged me privately about. This is very Denny O'Neil Batman from the 1970s. This was the thing that I thought was so cool was that, and this is not a spoiler because it's been in the trailers, is that, they're at a crime scene and like the cops are doing forensics and Batman's just walking around the crime scene in his full bat gear. And it's like, he's there with Commissioner Gordon. And it's like, dude, that's something right out of the comic book. That was really cool. Really liked that. I was not a big fan of this. Well, okay. I've listened to the score. And I'm a movie score nerd, right? So I have a lot of different things I graded on. Like for example, I still have buyer's remorse over the score from The Dark Knight, because as much as the score works for the movie, it's not listenable. You can't sit there and listen to him rake that chord across that violin for the Joker's theme for 5 minutes. It'll make you blow your brains out. But it's a great score for that movie, right? Like it does what it's supposed to do. It's functional for the film. And so this one, I think the score is pretty good. But again, all I hear is the Imperial March every time it comes on, and I just can't. And it breaks my heart because I love Michael Giacchino. I mean, as much maligned as some of the modern Star Trek films are, that's one thing no one ever complains about is his score that he did for him. I think he does great work. So I like that. I do think the movie was a little longish. I think it's a good 3-hour film. I think it could have been an amazing 2.5 hour, 2 hour and 40-minute film. There were some things in the third act that I think could have been trimmed out. Something that I don't know how I feel about, and everyone's talked about this. I mean, even Viking Slayer, it is such a realistic take on Batman. This movie is heavily influenced by Seven and by Zodiac. And I love both of those films. I adore those films, dare I say. But I keep thinking, wow, this there was a scene lifted whole cloth out of Seven. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. I mean, like Narwhal said, you could pull Batman out of here. Yeah, you could pull him out, put Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt in, still have the same movie, or what, so and it sounds like, and keep in mind, I want everyone to understand, I like this movie. I mean, it feels like I'm focusing on the things that bugged me, but again, the first 2/3 of this film was a 10 out of 10. It was so amazing. I was not a big, we saw the Batmobile in the toy aisle a couple days before we went to see it, which, by the way, and I'm gonna ask the Batman about this because I know he has baby bats or smaller bats living in his home. This is not a very kid-friendly Batman film. This movie, I can't see this movie selling a lot of toys. I mean, and let's face it, that from a studio perspective, that's a big deal. I mean, even when we've gotten some Batman movies that aren't that great, Batman and Robin, it still sold a ton of toys, So I can't see it looking good. Oh, Mom, I want the Riddler action figure. Do you really? Well, too bad, But we saw the Batmobile at Walmart, and I'm like, oh, this thing's ugly. But man, seeing that thing at night, and it was awesome. And something that people that have seen it in a premium theater said that kind of disappointed. They've all said the sound design for the Batmobile reveal was amazing. I'm like, oh well, I mean, it must have been the theater we saw it in because it was not that great, But Colin Farrell was a standout for me. He was. I mean, that he could walk up to me in full makeup in character and talk to me for 5 minutes. I would have no idea it was Colin Farrell. I mean, he's a very distinctive voice.
I even read an article about that after he got the makeup done, he actually left the set and went to like a local coffee shop, Starbucks or whatever, and literally just wanted to test out how well the makeup and prosthetics looked. And he said no one recognized who he was.
Wow. So yeah, I could darn sure believe that. Again, the cast, Jeffrey Wright's amazing. I've not seen a lot with Zoe Kravitz, but I thought she did a great job as Catwoman. And that was something else about this. This movie for a Batman film is peak verisimilitude. Okay, that means realism, believability, folks. Actually, it doesn't mean realism; it means believability. Like, there's a scene where Batman and Catwoman kind of encounter each other for the first time, and she tries to take him on, and he makes pretty short work of that. I mean, she gets a few kicks in, and he basically picks her up, and slams her down. Like, okay, that's believable.
Yeah, yeah.
And I really liked a lot of that stuff, and so again, all the clues and the way the Riddler. I didn't really think he was the Riddler. I thought he was more like Chaos than he was the Riddler, but his riddles were clever, and I mean, there were even moments where I smiled. Again, this riddle has been in the trailer, so it's not a giveaway. But what does a liar do when he's dead? And the answer, of course, I'm not going to reveal because I don't know if that was in the trailer or not. But the answer to that riddle was it was very, very, very Riddler-esque for me. My biggest complaints, and this was not a complaint the way people are going to think it is. I'm not a big fan of audiences being preached to. I don't think audiences like that. And there is a specific line of dialogue that Catwoman uses that I will say is, how do you say, it's a trigger phrase for some people. It didn't trigger me. It was like, oh man, why'd you go do that? I mean, there's a certain segment of your audience that's going to hear that, and that's going to take them out of the movie, and they're never going to get back into it. And it miffed me that they used that they decided to do that. And then the rest of it, there were some revelations that come in Act 3 that I felt like were not positioned correctly. Like you had a 3-hour film and you couldn't have like laid the groundwork for it. So like in Batman Begins, with what Ra's al Ghul is going to do to the city's water system, there's little clues dropped through the movie that he's going to do something. You don't exactly know what, but you can see. And there's like a lot of this stuff that comes out at the very end that you're like, well, what, wait, what? And I do feel like the ending of the movie, like as much as the first 2/3 was, and I'll shut up here in a minute. First 2/3 was a 10 out of 10. I felt the last third was one giant studio note. And at least that's how I felt about it. So for me, I'd say the movie was about a 7.5 and 8. But saying that, I still want to see it again. I want to see it in a better theater and really appreciate it. So that's my 10,000 foot view. Has anybody else got anything that they want to add?
Well, so I will kind of go in tandem with what you talked about as far as the car scene. Just as a testimony of having experienced it in the premium set and how it impacted me when they revealed it. So I was really looking forward to seeing this car because in the trailer and all that, and people had talked about it being sort of a workman-like utilitarian take on the whole thing versus the sexy technology-based type thing, futuristic or whatever you want to call it. So it being a stripped down, utilitarian muscle car, American might type thing, it was all of that on screen because when you first heard that, I mean, it had been about a 6.2 V8, monster of a damn engine just fire up, and then you saw the flames coming after that, that afterburner. I mean, it gave me chills. I was like, oh my God. And the reaction of like the penguin when he looked over trying to figure out what was going on. He's like, what, holy moly, what is that? And then from there, it was just nonstop, brilliant piecing together of action sequencing. Some of the best I've ever seen, to the point to where it really highlighted, in my opinion, the penguin and his role in the movie. I guess because he became the center of gravity at that point of the passion of the antagonist, because his will to live and survive and his ugliness came out in that moment. He's being chased by this guy. He's like, oh man, this guy's crazy. It's like, it was almost like he was enjoying this being in this moment, of running from his life from such, from this crazy bat dude, and smashing through all these cars and possibly killing people. I mean, it was nutty. I mean, I was just like, it almost reminded me of watching, who was it, George Miller that did Mad Max? Mad Max. Yeah. So it almost reminded me of the feeling that I got watching Fury Road when it was really straight up visceral, off your seat, like, holy smoke, all this metal going everywhere, these vehicles, and it's all practical. I mean, it was nutty. I mean, it was one of those visceral experiences that I was thinking, well, they captured that. That was one of the best things that they have ever captured as far as like, with the Batmobile and, do any type of action sequences, in my opinion, of all the movies.
Batman.
Yeah, and to feed off of that, that Ronnie just said, yeah, I loved that there was actual traffic there that they had to deal with, because for so many of these movies, it's like, oh, the Batmobile is going down the road and there's not a soul on the streets. You can tell that it's there on a studio set, and it just completely takes you out of the moment. But this, it was to use the phrase that Geek Boy used earlier, it's that verisimilitude. It's that complete believability that what you're seeing is genuine.
So this was not the car chase from Spectre, is what you're saying.
Hey, let's catch up on the board here real quick before we go on. So Lisa came in. So where would you rank Pattinson in comparison to, say, Bale or Keaton? I know we were going to wait to the end, but the Queen came back in with Bale, Affleck, Pattinson, Keaton, West, Clooney, and Kilmer. She then came back with "What's your superpower? I'm rich." Best Batman line ever. The Queen liked the Nirvana songs, very appropriate for this version of the Batman. And then she finished out with, what kind of car did they use for the Batmobile? Is it a Charger? So we're caught up on the comments now.
Speaking of that, so
hey
Batman.
guys, I'm gonna tune out because the daughter's coming out. So I'll be here listening on.
Yeah.
but I won't be talking.
All right,
All right,
man.
no problem.
Thanks.
All right,
Peace.
fellas.
Thanks, Ronnie.
So, Batman,
Later.
do you have a preference on Batmobile? I know you're, because of your cosplay, I didn't know if you had a Batmobile that you were particularly fond of, or do you just, or is that not one of the things that you zero in on?
Yeah, I just got it depends really. I think like in this case, if I'm cosplaying this version of it, I like to be able to be with the same matching Batmobile. Because Tulsa Pop Kids is working on a
Right.
90 or 89 Batmobile. So
Yeah.
if they have that out, I'd like to wear this suit with it. But in general, I think it's cool. But I don't know. I probably lean towards the Tumbler. I think the Tumbler was actually pretty good.
Yeah. And see, that was one that when I first saw it, I thought, what's this all about? And then when I saw it on screen, I thought, okay, this is pretty cool.
That's
Did
not
you
a
like?
Batmobile, but it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you like this iteration of the Batmobile?
Yeah, that's cool. Overall, I like that this was a younger Batman. He's still learning it. Nothing is necessarily polished. So, like the Batmobile, you can see it looked like he put it together. Muscle car-esque. Like nothing polished, and that's cool.
And I don't know if we ever answered the question about what the car. I think it was just a custom built job. I think
It was, but to me, it looked like on the body frame of a Charger, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. So a couple things I kind of wanted to note that I didn't notice this watching the film. It wasn't until I went back and read trivia about it, but there are Easter eggs all over this movie for other Batman villains. Besides the one that they hinted at the end credits.
Right.
So yeah, just keep your eyes out when you watch this because they're all over the place for this.
Hey, Goldar,
There's the ketchup bottle, and that means the condiment king.
You know it.
So Goldar, something I heard somewhere is that the what we thought was going to be like what we all talked about should have been the post-credit scene. With
In the asylum.
In the asylum, takes place in Arkham. I've heard that's a big misdirect. I've heard what they're really looking at for the next villain was the Easter egg that I think the other one you're talking about, that if you know a specific villain's real name, that's the villain. That's gonna be.
Well, I don't know, because that may be something else that I'd have to look up because I didn't notice that one.
Oh, okay.
But there's a particular scene where they actually flash on the screen the name of a Batman villain.
Yeah.
Probably towards the third act, probably the beginning of the third act. They flash them across the screen. So there's that. And then there's also a particular scene that Batman uses an item on himself in the third act right before the very end. That's also a hint to another character. And then there is another scene, probably in the second act, where Batman takes a card, and that's a hint to another group of characters. So there's like every few minutes, it seems like during this film, probably 10, 15 minutes, I would say, there's like a hint to like some major villain at some point or another. And it's just slight. It's not like a huge, like, oh, look at this. Look at what we're going to do. It's a very subtle, like if you're paying attention and you know Batman's history, you see the connection there. So it's really cool.
Mikey, did you like the way Gotham City was depicted in this, or was it too much?
It was okay.
Okay.
Like it gave you more of an overall feel for what Gotham City was supposed to look like.
Okay.
Where all the previous ones just showed you little snippets of this area or this area, but never an overall full view of what it would look like.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say I liked that Gotham City in this movie looked like Gotham City, not just like New York City wearing a Gotham mask.
Yeah.
Do we know where they shot it?
I think it was overseas.
Okay.
That narrows it down a lot.
Yeah.
Well, because yeah, but like for example, like for the longest time, I was in love with the Tim Burton the industrial art deco, but I mean that's fantasy land. I mean that place does not exist, and it was a bit, and it was a bit timeless. I was really digging the fact that basically that Gotham City was Chicago in the Nolan films, because it gave him a few excuses to do some stunt work in there. But yeah, this was I don't know where they shot this thing because it looks so bizarre. I mean, so Batman, are you a fan of the Joker movie?
I personally did not love it as much as I think almost everyone else did, at least everyone I heard. But this movie, though, the Batman kind of gave me vibes of the Joker movie.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you thought they could exist in the
that
same
was kind of my
universe.
feel overall. Again, it was good. Joker was one of those you probably could have taken the Joker out of it and still been an interesting like psychological thriller with Joker's name put on it. Like, I don't know, but it was good. I've watched it. I don't really feel like watching it again, but the Bruce Wayne scene in that one particularly, I was like, what are you doing?
The Queen just looked it up. Some of the sorry to interrupt, but some of the movie that was actually shot was actually in Chicago.
Really?
Yeah, the majority of it was filmed in the UK, but there are a few scenes that were shot in Chicago. So you get a little bit of that old world,
I noticed
new
Cape
world
was flying around. It's because the city was so windy.
Right.
oh, and also the car is a modified 70 Plymouth Barracuda.
Oh, a Barracuda. Oh, that's right. That does look like a Barracuda. Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Nash Bridges.
Like I said, Nash Bridges missing his car.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to think of anything else okay. So let's talk about Batman. I know from looking at your page, you've got some little bats that run around the cave there with you. Would you take any of them to this movie?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
And do you find that heartbreaking?
What?
Do you find that kind of heartbreaking that you can't take
a little bit. I don't know. I'm kind of the way things are. I mean, we're a little kind of surprisingly strict as parents, I guess, because they haven't really seen any of the Marvel movies either. Not just because we don't think they're bad. It's just I don't know. They're not quite old enough for them to really understand them. I think so.
Right.
We haven't gotten to that point yet, but they have seen Lego Batman and they really like that.
Yeah.
And I guess there's the Super Pets coming out. That's probably another one I'm glad they're making so that I can take my kids to a DC movie, but I don't think I'm going to like that one. Aside from Keanu Reeves.
Take one for the team. Take one for the team.
Exactly.
Batman always takes one for the team. Because like I say, I saw some kids in this theater that I'm like, why? And not that, you know, and to pedal back something I said about the influence of Seven and Zodiac, it's not gory. I mean, I don't find the movie too gory.
I disagree. I mean,
oh, do you? Okay.
Well, you know, I'll go ahead and give my review. I'll go ahead and give my review now.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, man.
No, it's all right. We know the Geek Boy loves to talk, so we just gonna let him roll. But no. So no. All right. So when I saw this movie, I definitely got feels of basically year 2 Batman, The Long Night, and there was just a lot of like stories from the Batman range that fed into this movie. And so I've had some, you know, when I got done watching it, I wasn't fully impressed. And I think that actually it was, and after I've had time to kind of munch on it and think about it and stuff, I have a feeling that it was the theater for me that kind of did it. Because, you know, I'll echo what everyone else has kind of said. It is a true Batman movie in the sense that this is probably the first time we ever got to see him really use his detective skills in any of the movies. I mean, we got to see a little bit in Keaton, a little bit with Bale and stuff, but I mean, really, he kind of outsourced all of kind of his needs and stuff to Fox and stuff. But this is the first time we actually saw Batman actually doing some work, and he actually enlisted Alfred, which, you know, that wasn't uncommon if we know the comic book. But what I liked about it also is that this being year 2, in some scenes you got to see the fear or maybe his overthinking start to play into his his reactions to things, and a lot of that's towards the end. And I think you guys know what I'm talking about. When he's in the Riddler's apartment and such.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've had time to kind of really mull it over, and what I thought when I came out of the theater was an 8. I'm actually more kind of like a 9.5 now. It just the thing that I would say probably keeps it from me for a 10 is the fact that I really didn't have a huge build up, climax scene that I thought was, the kind of the things we kind of go see the movies for, is that kind of like it tells me a story, tells me a story, like boom, everything kind of explodes into action and fun and all that kind of stuff. And it just really kind of told me a really good detective story, which, with 7 was kind of the same thing, is that there was really no huge moment. It was just a good storytelling of a detective story. And
what's in the box?
But yeah, that was a great acting, great scene, but it wasn't cars exploding. It wasn't, making the earth turn the opposite direction and turn back time. I mean, that it wasn't anything like that. But having time to kind of think it over, see what they've kind of taken from resources from comic books and graphic novels and telling stories, and kind of put it in there, and still been able to tell a great story. I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed Bat-Pat. I still think Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne is still the best Bruce Wayne. Maybe Bale is still my favorite Batman, but I kind of like the Bat-Pat's kind of being new to the trade, and seeing some of the insecurities played out on the screen was pretty powerful. And I think I need a second viewing of this to kind of round out my true thought process. But I would, even if I don't get a chance to go see it a second time, I will be buying it. And if they make more, I will be going to the theaters to watch it.
Outstanding.
I understand that he is.
Oh, go ahead, Paul.
As I understand it, he's already signed a 3-picture deal.
There we go. Bat-Pat for 3.
Probably more.
Yes. So, but anyway, we were talking to the Batman about his Bat kids.
Yeah.
Batmite. How many Batmites do you have, Batman?
We have 4 girls and a boy on the way.
All right.
You're carrying your own Justice League over there. All right.
Yep. There hasn't been a decent one, so I'm making my own.
There you go. Love it.
That's so great. So do they play with Batman toys and whatnot, or are they old enough to really, like you said?
A little bit. If I do find a toy that makes sense for them, that's Batman related, I'll probably buy it for them. And then but I'll usually play with it. But anyway, there's an Imaginext series. They're all smaller figures, but there's a whole Batman series as part of that. So I bought them a lot of those, and for the most part, they play with them. I try not to force any of that on it, because they obviously see me as Batman a lot. So it's like, if you want to do that, that's great. My oldest, she does Batgirl sometimes. All of them have had a Batsuit of some kind, but for the most part, I just let it go. They're more of a Disney princesses, which big surprise, girls, but not a problem.
Are they looking forward to the DC Super Pets movie?
I don't think they even know about it yet. They haven't seen the trailers.
All right.
Wow. Well, I think what started me down that rabbit hole, and sorry, Reverend, you've been talking immediate moderating. I'm like, it just didn't dawn on me.
Okay. No problem. But I was just waiting for my moment to get in there.
I know. Well, you did a fine job. But I saw kids in our theater that I'm like, not so much like, is this movie age appropriate? But my thing is this kid understanding this movie? You know what I mean? Like, are you getting some of the subtext of what's going on? I guess the thing is, this kid might be bored out of their mind. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or it's not necessarily that it was. Again, you disagree with me on the gore factor, but my thought was, some of these images are very troubling, especially the way the Riddler. Dealt with his victims.
Yeah, there were several people. I don't think I gave anything. The attack in the car, you know, was pretty graphic.
Yeah.
Not again,
Oh,
there was
yeah.
not a lot of, it wasn't a lot of visual gore, but there was a lot of inferred upon gore, if you know
Right.
what I mean.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
and you can't have those scenes and people not go like, or at least get a mental picture of what that potentially is. Now, kids, maybe they won't think past that, but again, I mean,
Right.
if anything, you've taken there, all you're doing is open your up like, so what happened there, mommy and daddy?
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you address that question? It's like,
He fell asleep.
yeah, he fell asleep. Yes, yeah. So except for the one scene, and we all know he went to the big sleep on that one.
Yeah.
So but you know, again, you could see it in the Arkham series games and stuff with Riddler's stories and the way he builds traps and stuff like that. Very ingenious. So I wasn't surprised with that, but I would say another kind of thing that just threw me off was the look of the Riddler. I've always, no matter his iteration, he's always been kind of more of a debonair villain than me than what we got in this movie, but it was interesting. I mean, his change actually in Hush was had me guessing all the way. And if you've not seen it, it's again, DC does animation great. I mean, they do great animated movies. So if you haven't seen Batman Hush, that's another one I'd recommend. Goldar, you agree? Did you get to see that one?
Yeah, it was pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I did not see that one coming on. I'd never read the book, so I didn't know what to expect there. But that one and The Long Night, both of those are really great animated stories around the Batman. And so
Batman meets Scooby-Doo is pretty good too.
yes.
Yeah, it actually is. It actually is.
Wait, are we talking about the new one, or are we talking about the really old one? Like
Oh, I forgot about the new one. I'm talking about the original one.
Yeah,
that's what I was saying.
That's
Well,
what
that's
I
what I was saying.
thought.
I knew
Yeah.
I was going to the original, the OG
Get the
Batman
old
versus
school.
meets Scooby-Doo, but there's been some new ones and stuff like that where
Well, and
brought him in.
you know, honestly, you know, where I thought the movie could have lost a little bit was, how do I say this?
carefully.
I know, I'm trying to. So there's something that we think we find out about Bruce Wayne and his family
Mm-hmm.
that turns out that the way the whole thing plays out has no effect ultimately on anything. And it's like, that's I will like it. Okay. I without being spoiler, I can say this without being spoiler because I'll compare it to another movie. Okay. So when you're watching The Rise of Skywalker and you think Chewbacca's been killed and you get mad about it, and then 2 scenes
Like
later,
you did.
yes, I did. But then 2 scenes later, you find out Chewbacca's alive. And it's like, okay, well, you just ripped my heart out. And then, oh, but it doesn't mean, it's like that movie was afraid to commit to that, right? So it's like that whole thing could have been gone because it ultimately didn't make any difference. There's a scene. I assume everyone who's seen the movie knows the scene, knows what I'm talking about.
If you're talking about the scene I'm talking about, I disagree in the sense that wow, how do I respond to that? I don't know how to respond to that without giving anything away.
That place, the thing with the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. That's
but see,
exactly the one.
that guy didn't know about the thing, so the thing really didn't matter to what the audience was viewing.
The
But
other
guy
guy.
that got the guy
Yeah.
found out, then it did.
All right,
do
so obviously
things
this is not going to be a valid complaint point.
So I say you're gonna have to give us a couple weeks and come back to that.
Yeah.
Vengeance.
Well, if I think I know what you're talking about. I think that scene served the purpose to bring some backstory
Mhm.
about
Attempted backstory.
their early time together.
Yep.
Okay.
And probably bring them closer. I think that's about
Okay.
as much as I can say
I
about
know
that.
it's hard to.
Yeah.
This is a hard review to pick nits on because we
Yeah.
specifically said we're not going to spoil it.
Yeah,
And
they
it's,
we're
did-
not
it's
trying-
interesting too.
Go ahead.
yeah, they
And
tried
it's-
to
and-
rehash something that's been in all the Batman movies without actually rehashing it.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting too because apparently they actually tested a shorter cut of the film, and audiences hated it. Apparently,
Really?
Yeah, they said that they much preferred the longer cut, apparently. And again, who knows what the cut was like and who knows how much they trimmed out of it, but
Right.
apparently the audiences overwhelmingly preferred the 3-hour cut. So
I heard there was a 4-hour cut too.
I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah.
I will say the Zoe Kravitz character reminded me a lot of her character from X-Men First Class.
what was her character? Butterfly.
Yeah, she was just
I
she was a
forgot that
mutant
was
with
her.
wings and
Yeah,
stuff
me
like
too.
that.
Angel.
Angel.
That's
Yes, thank
yeah,
you.
that's
Yeah,
who
she was
played.
Angel.
Mine, I'll
But
show you yours.
yes, exactly. So I was just like, not really reaching here, are you, Zoe? But no, no, she did a great job and all this stuff. But when I first saw her in the scene, I was like, oh, deja vu. Here we go again.
I mean,
Well,
but
it's
yeah,
interesting too because apparently Zoe Kravitz and Arpat have been like best buddies for years. So you know they had no problems with the chemistry between the
Right.
two of them. So
Well, I remember that when they were filming and then went into pandemic and stuff, she kept working out, but Arpat didn't, and so
Yeah,
she
I
would
know.
call him out on social media, like basically like in the gym today, where you are, Pat, or something like that. I mean, just kind of social shaming him and everything to let him know, like, hey, we're getting back into this. You better stay in shape. So it was kind of funny and everything.
I do think it's okay that he wasn't a jacked Batman either, because
Right.
to an extent, I think it probably would make more sense if Batman wasn't jacked, because
Yeah.
he'd probably be a little more nimble that way.
Yep, I
For
agree.
fighting and stuff.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
another thing I liked about Arpat in the sense that this is supposed to be his younger years. So I saw him more of a flexible type, fighter and stuff versus just brute force. And now I know there was as we can see in the videos, in the trailers and stuff, there's scenes where he just goes all like, monster on a guy and everything. But, there's a lot of flexibility and movement that he uses in that. Versus the Batman just kind of either taking the blows until he can get into attack and everything, like we saw with Keaton. You remember a lot of his stuff was like try to cover and then explode on him, while Bat was more of a kind of more of the almost the kind of taekwondo type offense, where basically using their own momentum against them to spin them around and everything. At least that was my take.
Yeah. Okay, well, apart from, so anyone have any, I'll start with the Batman first, since he's our honored guest. Are we pretty much wrapping down? Does anybody have any last comments to say?
One thing I did, I did want to say, echo everybody, same comments everyone, is Jeffrey Wright's Commissioner Gordon.
Oh,
Loved him as the actor, as in that role. I bought it, Gary Oldman, is a great actor. Loved him in that role, but so for a while there, I couldn't see anyone else doing him. But Jeffrey Wright, I think, held his own against Gary Oldman easily in that role.
okay.
Jeffrey Wright and Andy Serkis too. I love Andy Serkis.
Oh, Andy was great.
big
he's-
props to Andy.
He does an amazing job no matter what he does. So
My biggest complaint about that was that I wanted more.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted more of Andy Serkis's Alfred. So hopefully we get more in the next few films.
The Queen said she loved basically Harry Potter as Batman and stuff, because apparently there was a big hit Harry Potter cast here. So
Expensive petroleum.
All right, Batman,
All right.
any, last minute comments for you before we move on?
Think we're good.
Okay, Mr. Narwhal.
Love the film. We'll see. We'll see how we get some more of those.
Okay, Viking. Anything? Any
I'm
last minute
good.
comment? You're good.
Yep.
Okay, well, we're going to move on to our review.
Well,
of the
Goldar,
space.
anything else you wanted to say?
I thought Goldar
No.
said that. Okay.
Oh no, I've said everything.
Okay.
think
I don't remember us doing addressing that and stuff, but I guess brunch has dipped out for a bit.
Yeah, I think so.
Some more of that vegan cheese.
Probably.
Batman, so how many batarangs would you give up on this?
What did I
On a
give
5
up?
scale? How many batarangs would you give for this movie? Out of 5, how many batarangs?
Let's see. Well, out of 10, I was gonna say like 8.5, but
All right.
That
8.5.
works.
out of 5, I don't do math.
World's greatest detective. No matter.
Oh, before we walk away, B5 Babe actually asked for a rating of our
Oh,
favorite
yeah.
Batman.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's go around the board and do that real quick.
Oh, boy.
Batman, you kick it off. Your Batman order of preferences. You being the top, of course, I assume. So.
Well, number one is that guy from the 50s. No. No. Obviously, I remembered his name. That's good. As for, I don't know, I lean more toward the suits and the character in general. I mean, Batfleck's pretty good for me. I really like that suit. It kind of just jumped out of the Dark Knight Returns comics for me. I liked that, how it felt, had that feel too. But yeah, gonna get some hate for that one. I am Batfleck's still kind of my favorite. Pattinson and Bale are probably about the same right after that for me. And then we got like Kilmer, Clooney, sorry, West before Clooney. Sorry. I think that. Oh, yeah, I got to throw Lego Batman in there too. He's pretty cool.
Okay.
Who wants to go next?
Rocky, you got a ranking?
Okay.
All right.
So mine is going to be Bale number one.
Okay.
Then Affleck. Then Pattinson. Then I mean it's the Clooney and Kilmer. It's a toss up either way.
Yeah.
And then Keaton and then Adam West.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Keaton's pretty far down the list for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Goldar.
Narwhal?
Oh, sorry.
Or, I was going to say Narwhal. You wanna go?
Narwhal. So I'm just going to give my top three Batman actually,
Okay.
Because after that everyone's just sort of is in a bat morass of
Mhm.
of actors, you know, that are down here. But I'm just going to call out the three that I think really rise above the pack, and for me that is. I would say Pattinson is at the top right now. Number two is still got to be Conroy. I mean,
Yes.
his Batman
Oh, yeah.
is for me the epitome. And then I really like Will Arnett's Batman in the Lego Batman. So,
Yeah.
but for live action Batman, for me, I'm 100% RPAT.
Wow.
Goldar.
I'm gonna have to rank movie Batman. Adam West, I think, is a special place,
Yeah.
in the Bat
Batverse.
the Batverse, yes. So I'm gonna give Michael Keaton, just for nostalgia, is like my number one. I'm really looking forward to seeing him again in The Flash and I think Batgirl, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
For that too.
Yeah.
Arpats is going to be number two for me. I think his darker, grittier version of Batman, who just seems to be lost and then seems to be kind of finding his way. I think that's number two for me. I'm then going to say Val Kilmer. He did okay. I'll then say Ben Affleck and then George Clooney. I have mixed feelings about Ben Affleck, to be honest. I think he's a great director. Some movies I've seen him in, he's a great actor. I just really don't buy him as a superhero, to be honest. After seeing Daredevil and then seeing Batman versus Superman, I'm like, no more. We good. You can make these movies, but I don't think you should star in them.
Uh-oh.
Why did you say that name?
Yeah. The world's greatest detective couldn't figure out that his mom's name was the same name as Superman's mom. For 2 hours, for 3 hours, he didn't figure that out.
Honestly, I was in my 40s and hadn't figured it out either.
I ain't gonna lie, I was the same way. I was like, until they said that, why'd you say that? I was like, oh, wait a minute, they do have the same name, don't they? Holy shit.
And then that was his reason to stop fighting him.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
He's got some psychological problems. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
Geek boy, you want to go next? Or you want me to?
Go. Once you go, and I'll close this out.
All right. So, when it comes to an overall Batman, Conroy is really the top of my list.
Oh,
He's done movies. I know they're all animated, other than his special appearance on the Batwoman series and stuff as an elder Batman, but his animated movies, to the TV show, he's a great Batman, and he was a great Bruce Wayne. I mean, he's one of the few actors just by voice acting dominated both roles really well, in my opinion. So Conroy, I got to throw to the top there. After seeing the Batman with the RPAT, he and Bale are kind of tied right now, so I'm not really sure which I would like. So I kind of hold reservation to see more RPAT before I give a true vote there. And then it goes to Keaton just for nostalgia, but I gotta throw some praise out to Ben Affleck, because I really enjoyed his his Bruce Wayne portrayal. I mean, he's got my all-time favorite line, in which the Queen we already read was, what's your superpower? I'm rich. That's got to be the best line ever for any type of superhero statement. So and then the other ones just, they can be loosey goosey and all that stuff, but those are mine. So
I forgot Christian Bale. Yeah, I have to say he's.
I know. It's tough.
I totally missed that. Yeah, no, he's my number 3, and then everybody else after that.
Yeah.
I think I just realized I didn't say Keaton, and I'm totally wearing a Keaton suit.
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to call you out there, man, because I didn't want you to hunt me down at night and everything. But
I think we've
had so many of them.
I know we've had more Batman than we had James Bonds, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man,
I gotta lead toward. I don't know. I gotta lead toward, like, West was the best at that time. Keaton was the best at his time. Like, it's just a matter of the time it came out, and then you got Clooney. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, and we're not even counting. I don't even know the actor who did it in the old black and white movies and stuff like that.
I always forget his name.
I know. So, but yeah, there's another actor out there that's been a Batman. I just can't remember his name.
Yeah.
So,
I actually own all those old ones too. It's scary.
Oh, I wonder. Hey, could we ever put that on your fan flick? Do you think we could ever play one of those?
You never know. We might see one on there.
I mean, it'd be a little fun there. Anyway, so Geek Boy, what's your lineup, bro?
I would rather rank the Bonds than the Batman, actually, at this point.
That's a conversation, bro.
So I'm gonna kind of ape what Goldar said about, I think Adam West kind of deserves his own, like, pantheon. He's kind of like William Shatner. It's like he did this thing that no one will ever be able to do again,
Right.
And he was definitely a product of the time, but he immortalized the role, and he was the first one to really land like that. So he has his own little special place out in the either, kind of like, and since they were both TV, I'm going to do Kevin Conroy the same way. Like, since they're not really doing the same thing as these other ones we're going to talk about, I do think that the huge missed opportunity that Warner Brothers is leaving money on the table is if you want to talk about a superhero show to do HBO Max, do a Batman show. I mean, that's low hanging fruit, man. I mean, you could have cut this movie up into 45-minute chunks and had a 4-episode.
Well, I mean, dude, they could have easily spun the series Gotham into a whole Batman series.
I know.
They set the premise up so easily for that.
I know.
You could have easily kept going with that story. But anyway, I digress.
No, I hear you. So I'm going to set those two aside. So that being the case, Keaton's always going to win for nostalgia, because he was my first sort of fans don't know what they want till they get it kind of that between that and when we heard rumors that we're going to kill Spock, we're going to burn Hollywood down. No, you can't kill Spock. Yes, you can if you kill him well. Michael Keaton can't. Yeah, well, yeah. Michael Keaton can't play Batman. Oh, I guess he can. I mean, that was like, yeah. And so that's kind of like when they announced Batfleck, I'm like, everybody just wait. So Keaton, and then I'm going to say probably Bale, and then if I had a knock against Christian Bale, I hated his Batman voice. I mean, by the time he got to the third one, it's like he was almost like making fun of his own Batman voice. It was yeah. I mean, that was not a great thing. And then I really enjoyed Ben Affleck as Batman, and I think, like most folks, Clooney's the bottom, not because George Clooney's a terrible actor. That was a terrible movie. I mean, there were so many every choice you could have made, they made wrong in that movie. Like I feel like that I feel like Batman Forever doesn't get enough credit. It's still not a fantastic film, but there's a lot. They were still trying to hang on. Like I can buy that this is like the third film in the Burton verse, whereas
well, Clooney was Batman and Robin, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Batman,
Batman Forever was Val Kilmer, and I didn't think Val Kilmer did bad. He was serviceable in the part.
Yeah,
those black and silver costumes.
Yeah. Oh, holy rusted metal, Batman.
Yep.
So you're trying to get under my cape, Doctor.
You do that really
there were actually some pretty good one-liners in that one. So
chill out, Batman.
Women.
Oh no! So Queen just brought up. She's like, "Did we remember how Adam West ranked them in Big Bang?" Of course, there was. Of course, he was him first.
Yeah,
and then I think it was Keaton. He hated Bale, and he's like, "What's a bat flag?" He didn't even know about Ben Affleck. It was him, Keaton, Kilmer, Clooney, and then he's like, and then Bale, and then he's like, "What's a bat flag?" I think that was his lineup. So,
anyway, I don't remember what documentary this is in because I've seen more Batman documentary. The only thing I've seen more Batman than Batman documentaries is Star Trek documentaries, but it's a voiceover of Adam West reading it's from probably Batman 1 or Detective Comics, whatever issue he made where he's describing, I need something that will strike fear into the heart of men. I'll use the image, and he's reading that, and it is phenomenal. It is like, I want audio of that because he's saying, of course you can't see him hamming it up, but you hear his voice. But when you're looking at the comic panels and he's reading it, it is pitch perfect. It is amazing to hear him read that description. By the way, I don't think this is a spoiler. There is, as we've talked about in this movie, one thing that I want to give a shout out to is we've all talked about its noirish traits. When there's a lot of narration, a lot of voiceover work from Batman, and to me, in my mind, he's reading those yellow boxes. In my mind, is what I pictured him doing. But anyway,
so I got to bring one more shout out, or not shout out, is that we talked about how much the show is just littered with Easter eggs, and I think that it's almost goes with any Batman series. And did you guys catch the bust from the old Adam West movie that was in the background of the Batman? No. That he would lean the head back and push the red button to go down the thing. There's a scene. It's in the background.
Yeah.
Yes, the head bust.
I did.
It's in the background of one of the
scenes.
I was like, oh, there's the bust from Adam West. So
I missed that.
I was wondering who all caught that and everything.
Yeah,
you catch that, Batman?
I think I do. Yeah. Yep. Sure. Yeah. Whatever.
Sure.
Barely an inconvenience.
Barely an inconvenience. Super easy. Barely an inconvenience.
Barely an inconvenience.
Okay, guys. Well, okay. So I need a corporate decision here. We still have. Huh?
Oh, sorry.
We still have three more topics on the agenda. Do we want to just save those?
I say we save them. Well, we almost been on for 2 hours. So.
I know.
Yeah, let's do that.
And the last thing
watching Ronnie drive, it reminds me of the Batman right
I know. I think
you see the lighthouse. I was like,
yeah,
exactly.
Oh my gosh, this is like
I got you.
So, there's one scene that I want to say that like really set the tone of the movie, and I don't think anybody's gonna mind I spoil it, because when you see it, you're like, oh, this is really cool. It's in that very beginning when you first get to see Batman, you hear his boots in the shadows, walking up, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is it. This is the film right here.
Yeah,
that set the stage for the whole thing.
I was really so that's why I want to go see the movie again in IMAX. Those scenes, that very scene, when you hear that, I'm like, I feel like I should see something a little more crisp, a little sharper when he starts to emerge, and all that.
High heel.
Yeah.
High heel.
So exactly the stiletto red, the stiletto reds. Oh my god, fantastic.
So I think I may have figured out and I'm gonna again try this without spoiling anything about what Paul Dano was talking about modeling himself after Michael Myers. There is a scene at toward the beginning of the film where it's a very John Carpenter-esque type shot with one of the Riddler's victims. I'll put it to you that way.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
I think it's Austin Powers.
When he's on the steamroller.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Foley work in this movie is amazing. I mean, I will say that it's really good.
All right, Geek Boy, you want to sign us out?
Yeah, I think we're going to sign us off. I want to thank our special guest, the Batman of Oklahoma, for tuning in. Follow him on Facebook if you're not already. I want to thank Ronnie Brown for tuning in. I want to thank the Viking Slayer, Brunch Bullets, Mr. Narwhal, Goldar, the Reverend IT Geek. Tune in for all of our regular programming, Fan Reason Flicks, Night Crawlers, and Sci-Fi Friday tomorrow night. The Fanboys 918, I'm the Geek Boy signing off. Peace.